speaking of Jalen Hurts, he is a huge hot button topic amongst Eagles fans. It seems like every single Eagles quarterback is a polarizing figure between the fan base. Half of the fans love the starter and the other half of the fans want the backup to play or someone else to play. This isn't anything new, and it isn't necessarily calling people out. You're either in one camp or the other, and maybe for a slim minority, you're somewhere in the middle. I seem to remember when Jalen Hurts made his first start was against the New Orleans Saints, which the Saints still have yet to beat him. I don't think we play the Saints next season. So
yeah, I don't believe so.
No, we do. We do play the Saints next year. Yeah, we do. We play the Saints next year. So okay. I'm not going to jinx things, but he made his first start, and I remember he played a decent game for a rookie, like one passing touchdown. It was like one rushing touchdown and like a fumble or something like that, which was, I put that on the coaching staff for running the quarterback on a quarterback sneak with less than 2 minutes left to go. So I put that more on Doug Peterson than I put on Jalen Hurts. But I remember after that game, you feared that he would get figured out.
Yes.
And you know, I always said that I hope that the ceiling for Jalen Hurts is Lamar Jackson. I mean, there's no doubting Lamar Jackson's talent. He was a Heisman Trophy winner in college. He's basically been the most electric quarterback in the NFL since Michael Vick.
Yeah.
And I remember coming at it at a different angle and saying, look, I don't know what he's going to do. I don't know how he's going to play. You know, obviously in his rookie season, he had his ups and downs. He played games where he was like, dang, he looks good. And then he played games where you were just like, bro, what were you thinking? And even this year, I feel like there have been a ton of ups and downs with Jalen Hurts where I'm just thinking to myself, like that whole New York Giants game, like the whole game, I was a head scratcher, and I was like, what were you thinking? To like the Atlanta game, which I still think that the Atlanta game was like his wall, like where he had 3 touchdowns and he played amazingly, and no one can doubt that.
Right.
And then he had games where you're like, he did really well with his legs, but if he didn't have access to his legs, we would just be screwed. And teams, there were times, especially in that Saints game, at the end of the game, where you were just like, it was obvious the Saints figured out the game plan, take away the run, force Jalen Hurts to throw, and the Eagles are really nothings. And I just wanted to ask if you had any like change of mind when it came to Jalen Hurts, and what do you think that Jalen Hurts has to do? Because obviously, whether you can trust the stuff that Howie Roseman says or not, he says that Jalen Hurts is going to be the number 1 starting quarterback.
Right.
What can Jalen Hurts do to excel from what can honestly be like under like 23 quarterback to being like possibly like a top 15 quarterback?
Yeah. A lot of the like, and I know you have like an ongoing war with like Pro Football Focus, like a lot of the stuff you deem like useless, and then some of it can be very helpful. When you look at his overall ratings through them, which is a decent place to start, I guess, he's listed at like 11th or like 15th. And that seems a little high, but obviously numbers can be turned into different ways. And like you mentioned the Saints game, you know, his first start, I'll take it back the week before when he got thrust into the Packers game. And I was my sister and brother-in-law are Packers fans, and I was watching that game with them. And when he jumped into that game, it was like, it's obvious the only reason he's having any level of success is because the Packers have not planned for him, right? That's a pretty obvious thing. And the more that he's played, and like we look at the schedule, you know, like you said, there's been good Jalen games and bad Jalen games. It feels like the games that we win and that he plays moderately well are when he's only passing out of necessity. And, you know, like he might have 32 passing yards and you'll have between 70 and 100 rushing yards. Like those are good Jalen Hurts games. There's not many, like you mentioned Detroit and stuff, where he, lit it up or whatever. But it just seems like you win games in spite of him sometimes, and there isn't as many games where you win because of him, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So the way I look at it with him is like he's gonna have to improve as a passer. He might be like the greatest, right? You put him at Lamar Jackson's ceiling. My ceiling for him is more like a Kyler Murray, and the jury's still out on him as well. But I think like a good Kyler Murray game might be like the best we could hope for with Jalen. And, there was a lot of people that, jumped on him right away and were ready to crown him the next, king of Philly. And I just didn't see it yet. And that, was enough to get deemed a hater. And then there was first there was just Carson versus Jalen, right? Like you had to pick one. And then when Carson's gone, it was Jalen against the field. And there was times where like, Minshew looked great. Like I'm almost interested to see how the season would have went with like, even if you don't like Minshew,
with a Minshew playoff, with the Minshew playoff game against Tampa.
Yeah, even that. I mean, I think at worst you got to call him an above average passer, right? Like, so even throwing that in there, this particular year, the formula to beat the Eagles wasn't this crazy. You could write it in crayon, keep him in the pocket and make him throw. Like that's what the Bucs did, as they should. They're smart enough. They have two hot buzz, an offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator that'll probably be head coaches in the next 2 years. Like they're smart enough to figure that out. So, I guess really, if you haven't got to call this anything, a Jalen Hurts led offense is just going to be one dimensional, and that's only going to get you so far.
Yeah. And bringing up Gardner Minshew, it was one of those things where when he played, now look, you and I are going to say the same thing about the Jets as we're going to say about most of the bad teams on our schedule. Like,
sure,
it's the Jets.
It's the Lions.
We would say
the
same thing as if we were like, it's the Lions, or it's the Washington football team with Garrett Gilbert, who played very well, by the way, and the New York Giants with Jake Fromm. The things that I wanted to see from Jalen Hurts were the things that Gardner Minshew was successful at. Now, again, a fair argument against that would be, well, the Jets were planning on Jalen Hurts, which they were. Sure. And Gardner Minshew was kind of just a last-second shoe-in. The Eagles kept that under wraps. They did a very good job with it. It almost came out at a certain point in time midweek, but then the Eagles kind of shut that down. Gardner Minshew, he has a great release. I think that's the one thing in that game that really impressed me, because his release was just quick, immediate.
Yeah.
His downfield accuracy was amazing. Like both of his touchdowns were plus 20-yard passing touchdowns. Both of them were. And one of them was like a 35-yarder. The defensive lineman got right in his face and he still flicked it right to Goddard for a touchdown.
Right.
And that's just something I didn't really see from Jalen Hurts all season. Sure, Jalen Hurts threw some really good deep passes, but that wasn't enough.
Right.
It wasn't enough for me to be like,
against...
you have good deep pass accuracy. Yeah. And Minshew seemed to read the defense really well. And I've always said this, a lot of people got on Jalen Hurts in the offseason for not having that good of an arm. I don't really care about his arm strength that much. I care about whether or not he can read a defense. There's a stat out there that said like he threw like 1 mile an hour less than Justin Herbert as a deep passer. So that doesn't really matter to me that much. Yeah. What matters to me more is, can you read a defense? And more often than not, during the season, one of the biggest celebrations by other teams were, dude can't read the defense. He can't do it. And I don't know if that's something that you can teach, or if that's something that you always have. And, some dudes just never are able to play with it. But it is a fear in the back of my head, as well as the fact that he did have some sort of leg injury, which at the end of the Buccaneers game, he was in a walking boot. And my my philosophy is always, I would rather have a backup quarterback who is healthy play than have a starting quarterback who is not healthy play. Because unless you're Aaron Rodgers or Peyton Manning or Tom Brady, or maybe even Ben Roethlisberger, your backup is always going to play better than you.
Yeah.
Almost always. So that is my personal assessment about Jalen Hurts. And it seems like whenever I criticize the guy, everyone always says, "Oh, you must have been a Carson Wentz fan." Yeah, I was a Carson Wentz fan
Sure.
because
Why
I was
wouldn't
an
we
Eagles fan. And I wanted him to be successful.
Yeah.
Now I am a Jalen Hurts fan. I need him to be successful. I will even say that it is better for this organization if Jalen Hurts is successful, so that we don't have to draft a quarterback in the first round or get a guy in free agency, which is going to cost money, or trade a guy.
Mm-hmm.
So it is instrumental that it is better that Jalen Hurts is the starter than not the starter at the end of the day.
I think it benefits Jalen Hurts at this particular draft and isn't like go get your quarterback kind of draft. That looks like next year, actually. They're talking, there might be like 6 in the first round next year. But like, I think that benefits him as far as being the guy next year. Even the trade for Minshew, right? Like, we had Joe Flacco, and if all you needed was a backup quarterback, like Joe's been everywhere, he's done everything, he's from the area, like he was happy to be here, right? So you get Gardner Minshew for like a steal, like, so good on them for getting him the way they did. And like, if I'm him, it's like, if I don't even get the opportunity, like my one opportunity, I balled out, right? And then I didn't see the field except for the Cowboy game, which he had backups playing against starters, and I don't know can't really take much from that game.
He was impressive on that first drive.
Yeah, but I don't know how much I can take from that game, because you got to, plus and minus from everybody. They're playing starters, we're not. So anything positive looks that much better. Anything negative, you can find a reason to ignore it. So like, I really don't even factor that game into it. But like, if I'm Gardner Minshew, I'm like, if I don't even have an opportunity to like be considered for this, like, why'd you bring me in here? Like, yeah. Jim McMahon style, why'd you draft me, old man? Like, why am I here? Like, and if someone like him goes to like Pittsburgh, like he'd probably do great, next year or something. So I'm curious if he's even here next year. And if you do get rid of him, I think that shows the message of like, we don't want somebody to, because I think they could have played Minshew a second week, right? It felt like after that Jets game, they kind of rushed Jalen back like the day or two before the game. They're like, oh, by the way, he's playing. He's healthy. Don't worry about it.
He still was practicing limited until the playoffs. Mm-hmm. He was still limited in practice for like 2 or 3 more weeks.
Yeah.